record. All right.
I'm also streaming.
Oh yeah, I'm watching the Discord stream. I have that window captured, so the map is on screen. Let's restart this. How you doing, MrMan?
I'm good, thank you. Ready to rock again.
Hell yeah. What you been up to lately?
Working. Lots of work. My old lady was out of town, sent her on a trip, so I was doubling up on the parental shit. And didn't get to play D&D last week. And then
Yeah.
you talked to Zverg the week before, but then we also missed another session in between then. So technically only 2 sessions have truly passed since we talked last. Although, again, 4 weeks of real time have gone by. So I'll try to remember as much as I can. But it was pretty good. I believe we left off where all the diplomats arrived and they were doing the vote. And Withers arrived and they got to see Withers again for the first time. And that was kind of the last major thing I remember talking about. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, I remember it was like it was them facing the
Came
undead. Then it was Withers, like the kind of a
Yeah,
face off.
Withers arrived with 100 hippogriff riders because all the emissaries are arriving from around Perennia so that they can vote on the new Lord Commander of the Watch.
Okay, I got you.
So that was where we left off, and that was kind of the tail end of that one. So since then, we've played 2 more sessions. We're on 33 sessions now for this group. And yeah, it's been good. It hasn't been battle heavy because we just did like a 5-part battle, so it was nice to take a little break, and we just did some RP. I'll just jump right into it and just get her
Oh, so
done.
you guys did some RP. So is this like political or just like run of the mill RP you guys normally do?
Political, like the fucking definition of
Yes.
political.
It's what I've been waiting for. You know, I've been waiting for the politics.
I like the political side too. Our new player, the Paladin,
Xander is his name, right?
Xander. Yep, that's correct. Good memory. I could remember it there for a second, but yeah, Xander. He's a bit new, so he's missed out on them, so they're his favorite part. So he tried to do it, and to his credit, like he's doing the best he can. He's far exceeding all of our expectations. So it's nice to have another guy on board who's fucking given his all.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, he's also a paladin, and I'm sure that once he gets to level 8, not level 8, level 10, I'm gonna allow him a respec, and I don't think he's gonna be a paladin. He's not a paladin. He, he wants to make a specific fighter. He
Ooh.
doesn't particularly
So he's not going to go for
act
fighting
like a
anymore?
paladin. Sorry?
I mean, he's not going to be a paladin anymore?
I don't think he will. I mean, he has 2 levels to decide if he truly wants to be, but I'm gonna try and talk him out of it because he has so many cool ideas in combat, and then he also has just his temperament isn't a paladin. I want the paladin person to truly do it. And I was gonna tell him flat out, like, you're not doing it right.
I
Like if you're gonna be a paladin, there's more to it. And it's his first character, and there's no criticism of him being incapable.
I don't
It's a
think he needs to be
criticism
a
of someone.
paladin.
No, I don't think so either. See, he came off he's relating this to the closest thing he can, which is Skyrim.
Yeah, I understand.
And
It's understandable.
his
That's what I do with
original fucking
MMOs.
character was like he wanted to make soul gems, which isn't even a thing, and he wanted to be able to do thief stuff, which you cannot do as a paladin. Essentially, asked for shit that
So
just
this is his
cannot be
first
done in
D&D
D&D.
session?
Like first ever where he's had more control. He got in, and I
Oh,
can't wait till you talk to him. And I was
yeah.
telling the boys this when we talked last, because he has the perspective you have. He doesn't know a hell of a lot about this.
I mean,
So
I
he can
do.
give
It's
you
just
the
I like to relate it just so it's like the information stores
exactly, but he's
easier.
doing what you're doing. Kindness.
That's
He's a
cool.
guy who has a good idea about the RPG, and he is the best, closest thing you can get to someone who's a first timer. And I can't wait for people to hear his perspective because he is going to have the perspective I'm sure a lot of the people listening have. Um, and again, that's not criticism. It if you're there, you kind of have a better idea. And I played it for so long. There's stuff I don't even consider that people might think of and to ask or want to do. And yeah, like, but he has really good ideas. He came up with a really clever one when we played the other night, where the group. I'll just skip ahead for one section. Yeah, they're going to go to Castle Pokai and try to free the castle, and they convince the leader that they get to go there by themselves. But they didn't leave a method to let them know how things were going. And Xander was actually like, well, don't one of you have a bird that we could tie a message to and you could send your bird back? And it was like, nobody had thought of that. So it's great. Like 5 heads are truly better than one. That's just an example of how he's already made himself impactful by thinking outside the box.
I've
Because he
praised the
remembers all
party
the
for
cool
being so
stuff
diverse and so different.
that was
I
people.
like how you're like I want him to be a fighter if he has the opportunity, because yeah, a paladin would complete the party really and fit into the role. But I've said before in the interviews and just talking, like I like the party because it doesn't follow, like you guys aren't following the archetype to be an optimal party. You guys are playing the people you want to play. They or the fuckers are playing the people they want to play the best they can play, and that I think creates a better combat, better campaign dynamic than picking, like, you got your ranger, you got your, well, you got like, you got all the classes picked to fit a good, well-rounded, like, what, 5-man party.
Yeah, five now. And they don't have any overlapping parties, which is nice. Although it's kind of cool to have a couple fighters. It makes it a little bit
Yeah,
easier.
I
But I
think he
just want to
should
steer
switch.
him towards fighter.
Yeah,
That's my ultimate goal. I want him to just be a fighter because
but
then he
does he
gets
want to be?
feats. He does. He wants to fight with his net and his trident so
But he's
bad.
sticking with the paladin because that's kind of how
Well,
he
the
played
paladin
Skyrim.
has fuck all for feats.
Yeah.
By the
Oh,
time
that's
he's ninth
right.
level, he'll only have 4 feats. If he goes with fighter, he'll have 10 feats. So
It's,
I fucking
go
want him to
fighter
be a
all the way.
fighter so he can make the cool trident net fighting guy he wants to make. I know he can do it because I know how the rules work, and I know that'll be his best bet for doing it. The paladin, I think, is again just a relation to the first thing, which is why I always offer the respec. People don't always know what they want. I've had people respec five. It's usually if we start at level 1, you get to respec at fifth. If you start from level 5, you get to respec at 8, and so on. So that because it takes longer to go up levels as you go up higher levels, so it's a
That makes
smaller
sense.
increment. So that's my reasoning. But yeah, gave them all those like to get there's so many options when you play this fucking game. You've already got 4 guys that are insanely experienced at it now. So they know what to tell you, but then they give your own perspective and they all sound like good perspectives. So you don't really know which one to go with.
That's why
But
I would
yeah,
say,
it's
like, just go with your own, or take everyone's perspective and kind of like mold what makes sense.
and that's what Xander did. And yeah, I think
That's
he's
good.
he's great. But anyway, there's my little Xander tangent.
Shout
But
out to
back to this,
Xander, the new player.
yes. Um I got to see him on job site today, so it was good too. He's another one of my buddies that's in the trades.
Hell yeah.
Um anywho, so Withers arrived. I believe we spoke about the meeting that the group spied upon because this has all been laid out before by people that were in the middle of this apocalyptic battle. When they came up with these rules, they were rules that were put on the spot. They tried to foresee it's kind of like the Constitution of the United States of America. They tried to foresee a lot of stuff. The Federalist Papers, back in the day, they tried to just tell the future and kind of make sure that the country could steer its way through. And this is what the people that headed up the Watchtower project did too. And these were a lot of very intelligent spellcasters, high wisdom clerics. So it was a big effort, and it had a lot of thought. And one of those thoughts was when the Lord Commander dies, if all the countries in the world can just agree on a person on day one, then there need not waste time any more than necessary. Everything is meant to be as fast as possible so people can get back to the apocalyptic battle. Because again, I've been trying to play up that the Watch was under constant threat until right before this venture, where everybody met up and they all went to try and do that settlement. Right before that, that's the only reason that the Lord Commander was allowed to leave. Because there hadn't been an undead attack in literal months. I think it was 8 months or 9 months, is what I wrote in the original write up. So it had been so long since a major attack had happened that people kind of thought that they might have run out of guys or they lost the will or whatever. But that was when the Lord Commander, through Matthew's negotiating tactics, was able to snag him and bring him on his endeavor. Now, again, I kind of said before that Nathan's was going to retire anyway, and they already had stuff set up that, like these rules, if Nathan's would have died or he couldn't go to do his job because the undead came back while he was gone, they had rules set up. Unfortunately for everybody, um, Withers destroyed them. He found out all the rules that were in place for when Nathan's died, and he was like, "Oh no, these don't help." Because he always had Nathan's being killed as his backup plan
Yeah.
if everything went tits up, and he wanted to be able to kind of call the shots after. In his mind, he was never going to lose control of this situation like he basically is going to.
How
He
slimy.
came into this meeting knowing exactly how everyone was going to vote already due to spies and just due to his own intelligence,
Slimy
because he is
bitch.
also a champion now too. His buffs that
Wait,
he got,
how?
well, he became the champion that Andromeda didn't. I believe I said that last time.
I
That when
think you did
Andromeda and
too.
Withers locked eyes, she realized that he became Grimm's champion because she didn't choose Grimm. So Grimm chose Withers instead as a fuck you to her, and B, because Withers actually did a lot for his religion as well. Withers took him on as his patron saint. And
Yeah.
I haven't told Andromeda this, and it'll be far too late now. But yeah, Andromeda doesn't know that, or Withers doesn't know that Andromeda was chosen before him.
Oh, that
So
would
that would
piss him
actually,
off.
that guy, that kind of ego that Withers had, that would piss him off. And I was waiting to
Yeah,
see if
buddy.
Andromeda would ask that or hint at it, but the player never did, and I want to save that up for a rainy day.
That's surprising.
Or, well, now it'll be a long, long time if he gets a chance at it again. So anyway, Withers is there in Andromeda's sights, but she also realizes that she is around some of the most powerful people. Again, I kind of talked about how Quick was going to get out of line last time and how Andromeda was going to get out of line. I'm like, guys, you're around people that are not here to fuck around. They take the watch seriously.
Yeah.
Like, the people that arrive take this shit seriously. And they're like,
I do
if you
like how
fuck
if
with
you
the
tell them to be serious,
negotiations,
they will be serious if you tell them
yeah,
to.
and I appreciate that too. And I hate having to do that. I love nothing more than just let her
Hey,
buck and see what happens. But
I
when
know
it's
you hate being a
counterproductive,
parent.
I fucking do. I have 2 kids. I don't need 5. So anyway, so they mentioned all that. So they spy on the meeting. Again, this meeting is the very first night meeting is if they can all agree on somebody, they'll go with that and roll with it. They could not agree on someone. Every country voted for themselves except Galdrin, who gets 2 votes. Remember, they own the Northern Kingdom, so they get the Northern Kingdom vote and their own, which is why Withers read the rules for this, realized he was going to win the Northern Kingdoms, and he's like, got this. So he came in here cocky as fuck because he's got 2 to everyone's 1. He figured he could just negotiate people the way he wanted. As soon as King Ash voted for the Sanctuary, he was like, boom, gotcha, bitch. I'm voting for the Sanctuary. That's 3 against the Sanctuary right now. All I got to do is convince the rest of these people to vote my way, and we'll be fine. This was his plan in his mind going in it. So that night after the vote, since the group spied on it and knew which way everybody already leaned, I gave them each a personal mission. So I just said, you each get your own personal mission, which you can do whatever the fuck you want to in regards to swaying this vote. So they had a big discussion, and when we left the last time, it was as extreme as Andromeda willingly selling her brother down the river to get at Withers, which is insane, but so characterful, it's not even fucking funny. Like, she is that butthurt at that guy, and understandably so,
Really?
that she would sell out her own blood. Yeah, that's where that was at. So that's where we left, and I was like, oh God, what are we gonna do?
Oh,
So each one of them
that's
got their mission, as I said.
shisty.
And Xander's mission was to convince King Ash because he was a sanctuarian.
To lick
And
his
again, sorry,
balls.
I forgot to say, after discussing against one another, they had to figure out who they actually wanted to take it. They don't want the sanctuary to get fucked up by taking over the wall and almost dying to the man, which is what happens. King Ash explains it as Tixis was my creation. Tixis is our responsibility, and I will right this wrong because King Ash and Tixis were best buds. So I mean, not like me and Shaggy, but they were really good best buds. So they
You and Mormon Shaggy?
oh yeah,
Oh,
we won't
okay.
go too
I
into
was
it.
trying to make
I'll
sure
tell you
that's the
after. Well,
reference.
we'll
I
chat
got you.
after. But I wanted to encapsulate that time because it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Best to leave me out of
they
the
were
beef.
best buds, and he feels like he fucked up, and he wants to take it over, and it's eaten at him since it happened. He lost over half of his friends. All the rest of them became gods, and now he's alone. So he just wants to right his wrong and then go and join his friends as
That
a
makes
god.
sense.
Like that's just his thing, and he knows that he can just take over a portfolio as soon as he's ready. He's choosing to stay as a material person.
Really?
So he kind of wants to do this and fuck off, but he can't do it alone. He can't just stand there and fight all the undead. So of course he bring all the best of the sanctuary. They lost half of their population in that war. They only have about 2,000 people left in total. That's not, I mean, fighting people. There's probably about 4,000 of them with elderly and children involved. So that again, they took a huge depletion in resources is the point. And if they had taken this on, they'd have basically withered away into nothing and not been able to hold a fucking piece of ground at all, except the sanctuary proper.
So they
They
had
the
to
group
play a
all knows
very
this.
tactical
They know,
move.
yes, they know all this, and they don't want it to happen to this place that they helped in this war, and they all have personal ties to in real life and as characters. Xander's from there. They came there and they helped the sanctuary in the war. And I'm actually going to do a show too next when we have one where I don't want to just like the dungeon. I'll probably want to do that in one shot. I want to talk about what actually would have happened had they chosen the different choices, because I never actually touched upon what would happen. Like, say they'd have helped the Northern Kingdoms right off the bat. Then I want to explain what would have been the sequence of events. And we've got all of them would have led back to the Watch. This was always the ending of this arc.
I
But
like
they could
that.
have
I like
helped
the
different
watch.
countries get there. I do too. Well, it's pivotal, right? I know it's
Yes.
not super original because of Game of Thrones, but for my
Every
world, it's super
fantasy
original.
property has their form of the watch. Knights of the Round Table, the Guard, it's the same.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not trying to be original. I like it on my world. So
They're not
they
original,
watch that
they're
vote.
different.
They 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 see everybody votes for their own country, and they
Yeah,
decide that they
obviously.
want Sort to win.
Ooh.
They're like, you want Sort to take it over.
You want Sork?
Their reasoning is manyfold. So that's the merchant states of Sort in the top right hand corner of the map. The merchant states of Sort actually have a scutage right now with it. For those that don't know, scutage is what nobles of old, rather than sending men, they could pay money. So if they didn't want to send their boys to die in some war, they'd send money in their stead. Each man was worth a certain amount of money, blah, blah.
That makes
Merchant
sense.
states of Sort are, of course, rich as fuck. They're also very insular. I'll also explain them one day because we
Insular,
have
like
enough.
it means they
Yeah,
stick to themselves and they're just
correct. Very
self-sustaining.
xenophobic. That's
I
another
got
word.
you.
Well, their entire way of life is slavery. And as far as the people who
A
live in
lot
their
of
country know,
racism and slavery.
oh yeah, and there is nowhere else in the world except Sort. Everything
That's
that's
right. That's
outside
right.
is ran by the
They
merchant
people
houses.
fighting
So they
Sword.
don't know that there's somewhere to escape to. So that's like the veneer that they keep.
I forgot Sword.
So they also
We
met
talked about
Mitra.
that before.
Yeah, they met King Mitra, who is a throwback from their original Dark Sun characters, the first set of characters we started talking to when we started this show. So those Dark
Yep.
Sun characters, I basically just in my head lore or whatever for what would have
Head
happened is
canon,
head canon. That's what we'll call it.
as gay as
Um,
that is.
it's true because I have to think all this stuff through and why they're
It's
there.
very
I'm
true
gonna
as a
say that
DM.
they actually won. They were on the way to actually completing the challenge. The challenge was to be the only good people in an evil world, and
There you
they
go.
were well on their way to doing it. The only one who wasn't was Boulder,
I
Mister. I'm gonna fucking do something different to be a pain in
fucking
the ass,
Boulder.
which he owns, so I can't
Yeah,
be
I
mad.
remember
Um,
criticizing Boulder, but he was also my
yeah,
favorite because he was chaotic.
he made it so interesting, and that's why I love it. But he was the only one. And again, I'm just going to say that he went naturally more towards neutral anyway, because he wasn't that evil.
Yeah,
He was the barest
his
of evil, and he
behavior
had to
was like
try to be
neutral.
evil. He was pretty neutral.
He would
So
be
I think he would have
chaotic and then
drifted there.
super good. So
Yeah.
he was like
So
a
we'll just
very
pretend that,
extreme neutral.
yeah, they would have won, and they would have deposed one of the rulers of the city states,
I
and
just
then
said
they would
kill
have
the
made their
bitch.
way so that each one of them could own their own state. So headcanon off of old characters to add to the world that they weren't originally part of is they became rulers by kind of having an underground rebellion. Only problem was once they got in charge, they realized you can't just end slavery, especially when
Yep,
it sustains your
it's
entire way
infrastructure
of
at some
life.
point. In
It
some
is.
cases, it
So
is
they had
entirely
to
infrastructure.
yeah, so they had to accept the fact that they are now rulers of a slave nation.
Yep.
But they try to make it better. To their credit, as good people, they make it like the best situation they can. Like Roman slaves weren't always just beaten in the street. There were very specific rules, and eventually a Roman slave had almost as many rights or more than certain Roman citizens. So, I mean, slavery, for as disgusting as it is, it can be made about as bearable as possible in those situations. Again, the natural surroundings of the desert make it so people have to cluster together for survival. So they want it so that nobody can talk. That's why Scuddage is perfect. That way they don't have guys going there, serving their tenure on the watch, coming back and saying, guys, everybody else in the entire world is free, Like that's crazy. And that happens once in a while, but it's up to the merchant houses who actually they're the go-betweens. So the merchant houses deal with the higher ups of the rulers who all know exactly how the world works, but they keep it from the people at large. And then they deal with the merchant houses who have no problem just going around and doing their own thing. So this is all why they have scuddage. That long-winded nonsense is why. So they do scuddage to keep their way of life secure. Only problem is, after the war, there was a huge influx in slaves. And since Fangorn took a shitload of slaves, as the rebels did, the states of Sanctuary didn't need slaves because they're poor as fuck from getting their ass handed to them by Galdrin. And Galdrin also
Galdrim
started taking
bankrupted a lot of people.
They did. They fucking won this war. So Galdrin then had their own
They
slaves
lost
from
it, but
everywhere
won
else
it.
in the world. Even the northern kingdoms is where they got the lion's share of their slaves. And the northern boys, they're big husky men because they come from
Yeah.
very harsh climates. I'm modeling them on Vikings, of course.
Yep. We
So
discussed this.
they're like the big dudes. So they just took them to be their slaves. Now all of a sudden, the merchant states of Sort have all this manpower and nothing to do with it. They don't fight amongst themselves very much anymore because over half of the rulers are friendly with one another. And
Mhm.
they're also over 150 years old each. So
That's
they've got this
true.
crazy power balance going that none of them truly want to break, kind of like the world right now. Nobody wants to break this major peace that we've had for so long because the first motherfucker that does it is going to open those floodgates and it's never going to be the same. And that's how Sordian rulers are seeing it. If there's no news, it's good news. So but now they've got all these dudes. So in their mind, and I can't go all the way in because I don't want the players to hear it because I know some of them listen. So I'm going to end it there. I'm just going to say that they've decided not to do scuttage and they're going to send their own people now to defend the wall. And
It
this is
makes
what
sense.
this is what King Mitra says in the meeting, so they know this. So they all talk as one, and it was good. It was a good fucking 45 minutes to almost an hour of straight up discussion between all of them on what the best path was.
So
They
let's go through
weighed the
some of
pros,
that.
the cons of each ruler. They were tempted to go with Fangorn.
Why? Why
But yeah, that
Fangorn? Let's discuss a little bit. Like, why were they siding with Fangorn mostly?
because the Fangorian ruler was likening it to his rebellion, and they saw him in that Treant army. Well, two of them saw him with his Treant army, and he said he'd bring the Treant army to deal with this fucking stuff. Only problem is it would take them a very long time to get that Treant army to where it matters.
Hmm.
Also, they just don't want to give Fangorn anything because there is also a certain amount of prestige that comes with this. Whoever fights off this lapse in the watch is going to be remembered for all of history. And prestige is a thing that matters to me for these countries. And it
Yeah,
mattered for the
obviously
world at
that's
large
their
too.
total
I need to
standing
know
and image.
this. Well, States of Sanctuary went from like second place to eighth place kind of deal. Like
Yeah,
they
well,
fucking
it's
plummeted.
not. Yeah, it's
Their
not their
losses
fault
are
though.
significant. Significant.
It's not their
Okay.
fault.
No, it's just what happened, right? Galvin
Yeah,
declared war, and they decided to go ahead with it.
I think it
So
wasn't.
they'd have done a
I
lot
think
worse. They'd have
Galdrin just
been.
plowed them because they just existed there. It's not the fact that they were sanctuary; it's just they were there, which
Well,
could be worse.
I can't wait to talk about the alternatives because I'd love to talk about what
Ah,
happened if they hadn't been helped. Because the player characters helping Sanctuary saved Sanctuary
yeah.
straight up.
Okay, I would like to
So,
discuss that too.
yeah, I think it'll be fun. So they decide to go with Sort for all the reasons I just discussed. They talk about all the other ones, weigh the pros and cons. It was a good, lengthy discussion. Fortunately, Xander didn't have much to say because he doesn't know fuck all about the world because he just started. But he's going to start listening to podcasts, so he has a better idea. So that's great.
Shout out to
Um,
Xander if you hear this.
fuck yeah, I hope he does too. So the leader of the watchtower is chosen to be Sort. They have 5 personal missions. Each one of them have a personal mission to sway another ruler, or in one case, gather information. That's of course the Sordian ruler himself, because they already know he's going to vote for himself, so they don't have to persuade him, right? So they each take a person. Um, Xander takes King Ash because he's a sanctuarian. Um, was it Sverg talks to the Fangorian ruler? I've got a name for him. I'm sorry, I don't remember it right now. I have it written down,
You're
but he
good.
is the high druid, essentially the head druid. So he talks to the high druid. Oh, it's right there. It's like Gargamel or something. It starts with a G. But he talked to the high druid. Is going to be
Grogamesh.
there. Yeah, no shit. And because Varg is also from Fangorn, he figured that would help as well. And they're going to try to speak to him in their native tongue. King Mitra, Quick's going to go there because he just wants to talk to King Mitra. Plus, it's his own character, right? So it's him
Yeah,
talking to
and
himself. So he just loves the fucking idea of it. But he actually had his own ulterior motives he told nobody else in the party about, which is why he wanted to talk to King Mitra, which I'll get to when I get
oh,
to him.
so you still don't
Yeah.
know? You're just gonna let him do it?
He already did it. I had no idea either.
Oh,
Yeah, he didn't tell
okay.
anybody. Yeah,
That's
he's already done it.
awesome.
And it was
So
great. The
you said
reactions on people,
Zverg?
especially Andromeda, was crazy.
You said Zverg
So
did it?
Zverev did that. And then Shaw, of
Shout out
course,
to
the watch.
Zverg. Swerg.
So Shaw, he gets the watch, of course, because the watch idolizes him because they saw him jump off a tower and cut a vampire's head off, which is pretty fucking
Yeah, it was bad.
that
I
sticks in
think
your
I
head.
even said that was badass.
Badass as fuck. So he gets the watch because the watch get a vote, so they have to get the watch to vote for Sort. And last and not least, so group's all decided. I've waited to do Andromeda till last. And Andromeda starts talking about what she wants to do, the character. And I've been waiting for this moment. and I wanted to interrupt
That
him.
would be
So
he, the
he's
player.
just into his spiel, and I go, "Did you hear that? The knocking?"
Oh.
I knock on the table 3 times to like startle him out of it, and it totally worked. He was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "You hear a knock at the door." He's like,
Oh,
"What?"
yeah, you have
Like,
me
yeah, go
nervous.
answer the door. So fucking Quick gets up because he's the quickest, runs over to the door, opens it up. He looks up. Now, remember, he's a 2 foot tall halfling. So the person in the doorway can't see him because the person in the doorway has a pillow in their arms. On the pillow is a pink invitation with large letters Andromeda across the front of it. The person that delivers it starts singing like a telegram, and it's basically an invitation for Andromeda to have dinner with Withers. If you could have
Oh.
seen the motherfucking look on his
Oh
face,
my
the absolute
God.
audacity of this dude.
What? Hold on. Give me a sec. I'm
So
gonna get a
I'm like,
give me a second. I'm getting a Dr. Pepper. Holy sh! I actually have to take a step away. Give me a second.
well, let me tell you what, it was pretty good. Andromeda's player, his mouth literally dropped open. He just couldn't believe it. The balls on this guy. So then, Quick standing below the pillow, he can't fucking be seen because the pillow is like right over top of him. So the person asks if Andromeda wants to go or not. Or no, sorry, they didn't. He just delivers the singogram or the singing telegram or whatever, leaves the invitation on the pillow with someone that he thought would come and take it. Didn't realize Quick was below. Quick reaches up and grabs it, and then he walks away. It was just a little bit comical because he's short. So door closes. They bring the invitation to Andromeda. Andromeda reads it, and it says, "You're cordially invited to dinner at so and so time with Admiral Withers, his blah blah blah." And they have this big lengthy list of stuff. And then yeah, so he had to weigh that over, and now I'll wait for Sork because I don't want to go too far. Dead air. Whoa, Kimasabi.
So Withers sends some delegates to invite Andromeda to dinner.
Yeah, he sent one of his flunkies, one of the page boys with a nice singing voice. He
I,
wanted to
I
to
got
show it up.
pretzels. I got pretzels and French onion dip also.
Dip and pretzels. I've never tried that. I'm gonna try
I
that.
always do that. It's that, or as gross as it sounds, I get soft pretzels, I heat them up in the microwave, melt some Swiss cheese on it, and then a little bit of mustard to dip it in. It's kind of smells, but I don't really smell Swiss. My nostril, like my nose, is all fucked up. I don't smell Swiss, so it's good.
All right then.
That's just a fun
So, yeah,
fact for
basically,
anybody
I
that
just
doesn't give a shit.
well, while you're gone, I was trying to fill dead air, but I ain't no radio personality, that's for
You're
sure.
good. If
And
I have
plus,
to,
I don't want to have to say it again when you get back, so you don't get lost when I'm in
I
the middle of
understand.
something.
I think it's funny. I want to go listen to this when I'm going to upload it, and I'm going to hear you try to like fumble through entertaining nobody because we're not live.
Yeah, do it absolutely. I would. So yeah, he finishes singing the singing telegram, and then Quick takes the pillow away from him. He didn't even realize Quick was there because he's short. Haha, short joke. It was funny at the
Shut
time,
up,
so we were
quick.
all yeah. He takes the pillow away. Andromeda's player examines the invitation. I didn't actually make an invitation. I was tempted to, but I wanted to totally be. I'd had to get. I want to see the whole group's reaction. It was pretty good. The only one who wasn't too reactive was Zverg, but he was insanely big.
You
So
know,
that's
next time if you have any art that needs to be made, like a postcard or a document, hit me up. I want to start making shit for you guys.
Well, it's not so much that as I'd have to get it printed off to make it real, and he's
Oh.
the only one with a printer that I know
You can
that
just
would
load
work.
it. You can just
That's all
load
it
it
is.
up
I
on your
would love for you to
phone.
make artwork. Fuck, I'd love for you to make artwork. What I want is I want someone to make city skylines. I've actually been pressuring my daughter to learn to do that
Oh,
because she's an insanely
oh
good.
yeah.
Oh, she's such a good artist.
Is
Not because she's
there
my
is
kid.
there
She
any
is.
fantasy mods or anything you can get for City Skylines to make a cities?
I don't know. Plus, it's all in my head, right? Like
Yeah.
I know what I want the sky, and only certain. I only have like 6 cities on my world. I have a specific idea of what they'd look like. But like I love those New York skyline and the Seattle skyline where they have like their landmark or whatever. I have a few cities, mostly in Caldron actually, because it has
Shout out
the most
Galdrin,
extensive set of
you
cities.
French sounding bastards.
What are you talking about? We are great. We conquered the world.
I hate
So yeah, it was
that.
great. So so
Bastard.
here we are. Andromeda is not impressed and literally mulling it over. And he's just looking at me like, you bastard. I had a good chuckle over it. So I'm like, you gonna have dinner with the guy that had you gang raped in front of an entire ship's crew and all of your friends? Like, valid question, I think. And this is the type of stuff I'm going for. The hard decisions. I could see it. It was like, what do I do? And he decided on taking one for the team. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have dinner with him. I'm
Yep.
like, friendly reminder, you start
Don't kill
anything
him.
and it's
Yeah.
gonna go horribly for you. I won't stop you, but it'll go horribly for you. You know you got Ash on your side, but even then it's like thin ice.
You know how
He
much
can't even
political
lift a
fallout
finger.
comes from that?
He has a literal clause in the peace contract that says he himself cannot lift a finger against the Galdrain for 50 years. If he gets seen, then his people get punished. And he signed that contract. Mainly because he knows he's only doing a couple more things and he's fucking off to heaven, so who cares? But they don't know that, of course.
Oh
So
yeah, duh.
so he's like, yeah, no problem, I understand. He's gonna try and just convince Withers to do what he wants, hopefully banking on the fact that Withers is still madly in love with his character to get away with this, and that's kind of his reasoning on it.
And the
His backup plan,
narcissist and Withers
yeah,
leaves that a possibility because he's like, oh, this person's stroking my ego and narcissism, and I had them gang raped. Ooh, they're mine.
yeah, exactly. And
Good
he is
bait.
just he's also different now, right? He's God imbued. So
Yep.
he is literally smarter. He is actually smarter. Like he got a better brain pretty much. So he's smarter, he's also wiser.
Bastard.
So he is now going to learn from his mistakes more, and he is more charismatic. Because when they got to choose between the templates, the
My
Duke
bad.
template
I meant Withers
modified
is
your
a
strength.
bastard, not Andromeda. I said
Yeah,
bastard at the wrong time.
yeah, that's all good. But like the point was is that when Andromeda got to choose which god to follow, she could choose Duke, which boosted her physical stats, or she could choose Grim, who boosted her intellectual stats. So
She went
Withers got those
intellectual, right?
intellectual stat boosts instead.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Sorry. I'm just talking to myself. I'm not
All good.
adding anything. Yeah.
So he accepts the dinner, which was pretty crazy, but he did it.
I'm shocked at that. Like,
Me too.
not as
And
shocked as
it's gonna make it.
Withers representative showing up, but I'm still shocked.
Well, just imagine reading the book and reading that too,
Oh,
right?
I
Like,
know.
fuck, these
That's why I'm doing his
people, they're
YouTube
not gonna
channel.
read it over like months like we're taking to tell the story, so it'll be like new to them. Like,
Oh
it must
yeah.
have been 200
They can
pages ago
binge.
that he did that
They
kind
can
of thing.
binge it all in just one giant text format. I thought about typing out our podcast in like cutting out
Oh, was
all
it
the
transcript?
discussion and leave the story as we tell it.
Dude, I'd support you in anything you do for
But
this.
that's so much effort with the other
It
channels I
is,
already
man.
do.
That's why I say I support you, but I ain't doing it not yet. I'm gonna
Yeah,
wait till I'm like
well,
fucking
whoa.
maybe when
I'll
I'm 50.
I'll wait until the Perennia ends and then I'll start writing some stuff down, or maybe doing like a recap discussion, which we could
Oh,
do. But
so with
anyways,
that, everybody has their personal mission. So Xander goes first because I wanted him to do something because he was getting a little antsy. So I get Xander to go first. He comes up with quite a few good things to point out to King Ash, like the fact he's already lost a ton of people in a war. He
yeah,
also points out the fact that his
he's kind
people
of
need
ballsy to
him.
point out some shit unless he did it tastefully.
Yeah, he's a paladin, man. He's not
Oh
afraid.
yeah, and he's
He's
trusted. He
a
can say
god.
whatever,
Yeah.
and he's trusted.
So he says this to King Ash, and he succeeds on his diplomacy check to change King Ash's mind.
You
So boom,
stank
they got
pussy.
Sword on board. Shaw goes to meet the men of the watch. He is not much of a talker. He
Yeah,
has to use
yeah,
a
I
couple
got
nightly
that.
rerolls to convince his people,
Oh,
but
really?
he also, oh yeah, man, he has a +1 for charisma. And he has nothing in diplomacy. I give him
Sorry,
a +5
Shaw.
because I idolize him, but he can still botch it. So he botches it twice. We had a good
Oh,
chuckle, and he
that's
makes it
fucking
through.
great.
It's how
Sorry,
it is.
Shaw,
That's
for
why the
laughing
nightly
at you.
rerolls exist.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
that's
great.
true. That's
He
very
had a
true.
good laugh too. And wait till you hear what he did the other night. You'll have a good chuckle too. So then we're on to I did Andromeda. I'm like, I'm saving you for last Andromeda because you get to meet with us.
Yeah.
So keep on to Zverg. Zverg does okay. He doesn't realize it, but he didn't make the best impression on the ruler of his home nation.
Sverg? Really?
Yeah,
I figured
he
Sverg would
was
nail it.
rather rude to him. He wouldn't bow to his
Oh,
king. He is technically his king, right? He is the ruler of Fangorn. He is a Fangorian citizen, and he did not
come
kneel. He bowed.
on.
I said he got a hard look for it, but we'll see how that goes later. So, as a man who's a dick in real life a lot, I can tell you with absolute 100% certainty that being a dick to people all the time does
Does
not
not,
get you
yeah,
that far.
it
Yeah, it
could
gets you
potentially
respect from
fuck the whole
people, but
party.
yeah, it can really be counterproductive.
Or if the king's
I.e.,
petty enough, he would get Sverg killed for that slight. It's like, hey, the rest of your party's fine, but he dies. So
just
it's
don't
like,
battle me over a parking spot. I'll lose. So, anywho, um, so with that in mind, he gets his though. He still manages to convince his ruler because he has very good points. I'm gonna have all these points listed out, and this was like 4 weeks ago. I can't remember them exactly, but he's a smart dude. Came up with a few points, and he did manage to convince the ruler of Fangorn to vote for Sort instead. Then we get to Quick. Quick was not there to convince the guy who's going to vote for himself already. No, Quick said to everybody he just wanted to go hang out with his character because he thought it'd be cool. What he actually did was gave him all of the secret information on Withers and asked him as the only price he asked, because remember, Withers doctored all sorts of shit to send the supplies that were supposed to defend the watch or to go to the watch to his war effort. So all the people that were in charge of the watch died because he took all their supplies away because they have no farms,
oh shit,
no nothing. He killed them all. Like this is serious.
that's true.
And it's like a war incident kind of thing. And Sort was the ally of Galdrin in this, which makes them complicit by the rules of diplomacy. It's
That's
bad.
very true.
So Quick's like, yeah, I'm just gonna give him all the stuff, and I'm just gonna ask him not to say anything and still vote for himself. The look at Andromeda's face is like, what? You gave him everything? He's like, yeah, I just took them all. And nobody said anything differently, and they couldn't have stopped him. So Andromeda wanted to keep a couple sheets for herself, just to use as scrying against Withers, so she could do to him what he was doing to her.
Yeah, makes sense.
So he well, he's gonna learn something that's it's not gonna matter. But
Oh,
yeah. Well, they each got to make themselves immune to certain spells.
really?
That's all I'll say.
How do you? Oh,
Yeah, as a
if that's all
champion,
you're gonna say on it, I won't ask.
yeah. Well, in the regards to what he made himself immune to, because I don't want Andromeda to be too aware, but they each, Andromeda herself too, they get to choose one spell of anything, arcane, divine, druidic, whatever. They get to choose one spell from levels 1 to 9 that they are just straight up immune to. They
Really?
just ignore it. It just does not work on them. Yeah, that's their buff.
That's pretty.
So
That's
they
sick.
go
That's
through.
awesome.
Yeah, supposed to, right? They're champions. They got to live up to the name.
That's
So
true. I can't
he gets
contest
the
that.
same things as Andromeda got. So her wanting to scry him probably won't pan out. That's all I'll say on that. But still, he's
Mm.
a smart dude. It was good of him to keep him. And there's other reasons to keep that paperwork, which he'll also discover. So it wasn't bad that he kept it. Anyway, Quick didn't tell anybody in the party that he was doing this. He was just like, yeah, I'm gonna give all this shit to Mitra. Because they were gonna do it anyway, but they wanted to do it as a group. And Quick's like, nah, niggas, I'm doing this shit. So he fucking does it.
Man, he's
So
always
that was
doing
kind of
his own
funny. Just
thing.
yeah, him and Andromeda going at it there real quick was pretty funny. So
I would love to be
he
there.
accomplished it. Yeah, he made good friends with King Mitra. He made a very good impression. He got invited to go to Sort, and he said, when you go to Sort and get kidnapped by slavers, just tell them a certain phrase, and then those slavers should let them go. He's just straight up said, "You're gonna get captured by slavers." Like he didn't have a doubt in his mind that they'd get captured by slavers before they ever got close to him. So he knows how his country
But
works.
that's true
So
gangster shit that he tells him how to get out of it, though.
yeah, absolutely. Well, he made a good impression.
And who was it, Shaw, you said?
Outstanding. So last but not least is Andromeda.
Who was it that made the good
So
impression quick?
Quick made a good impression
Let's
on
just make
King
sure.
Mitra.
Shout out to Quick, by the way.
So now we get to Andromeda. It
No,
was
Andromeda.
rather tense. I talked like this, and we had a conversation, and he ended up not, because they were going to blackmail Withers. That was his plan. The
Oh, that's
original
not a
plan was they were
smart
going to
idea because he
blackmail
would
Withers.
expect that.
Yeah, basically, Andromeda was going to give him that one page that she wanted to keep and say he would get the rest of the pages if he voted for Sort, and then that was going to be the blackmail. Pretty straightforward. So when Quick went and gave all those fucking pages to start, now he, to be fair, they'd always intended on double crossing Withers, but in case they had some way of knowing whether he was telling the truth, because he didn't want to bluff, he
Yeah.
was just going to say, "We're going to give you the papers," because in his mind, I don't know how to work. It was a bluff, but it wasn't. Sorry, again, 4 weeks ago. But essentially, the 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 blackmail was going to be that they give him the papers, and then his reasoning was he was going to pull it. And I can't remember, but he doesn't end up needing to. They end up having a discussion, and he finds out that Withers is still madly in love with Andromeda, and he is actually
Oh,
able to
yes.
simply twist Withers to his way. He finds out that Withers actually wants to apologize for what he did. So he twists Withers, as only a woman who could twist a man who's in love with her can do, into voting for Sort. He didn't even have to blackmail him. So Withers still has no clue that the Sort has all this evidence against him. So he ends up convincing
That's
Withers to
nifty.
vote for Sort. Yeah, it was very cagey. I actually have what he did written down, and I'll read it when I
Was
have
it
it.
like
But yeah,
tense and back and forth?
it was because he was just trying to be a dick with her, right? Like, I'm like, do you come to
Yeah.
the battle in armor? He's like, yeah, I come fully decked out. I'm just gonna eat loud. Like, he was like, I'm gonna be obnoxious.
Loud
Of
and
course, this doesn't
brash.
matter to Withers. He is just happy as hell to have her. So I said, as
Fucking
soon as she
simp.
gets there, the door opens. There's a long table. At the end of the table is Withers, who stands. He's in his human form at the moment. He tells all of his servants to leave after stoking the fire because they're in the north. And as soon as they leave, he morphs into his ghoul form so that they could talk as champions because Andromeda is in her were tiger form or her tiger form. So a tiger and a ghoul have lunch to, or have dinner together. So yeah, it was a tense exchange. He
Sounds like
basically
it, dude.
harps on him. They kind of take jabs at one another over the war. Yeah, it was pretty good conversation all in all. It took about 15 minutes. So after all said and done, once he realized he didn't have to bribe him, he could just manipulate him as women can manipulate men because he actually has an okay diplomacy. So they just rolled off. He ended up winning the rolling off, getting his way, and keeping Withers none the wiser. Worked out awesome. The next day comes, the vote arrives, everybody gets to go to the vote. They all watch as everybody unanimously votes for Sort, and boom, Bob's your
Hell
uncle.
yeah.
It was pretty easy, yeah. Now that took all night to get to that point because we did
Well,
all the
well,
individual
that's good you
RPs.
got to that point, though,
But
is
we
the
got to
thing.
that point. They got a new Lord Commander. He's going to be Sordian. So we ended off that night, and now we're to where we played a couple days ago. So it's much fresher in my memory. But it's as if in the game they'd never left. So the consequences are red, where the guy wins, and then we just start that. I just start with all the diplomats leaving now. So I say that at the next, like the crack of dawn, the next day, the only one who's up is Shaw because he's an elf, and elves don't need as much sleep as everybody else. So he leaves the crack of dawn. Shaw witnesses him flying away. He takes his dragon and he gets on his manticore, and they fly away without a word. Doesn't speak, just showed up, did his shit, had to sleep, got the fuck up, and pissed off. Like,
I mean, that's the
that's
way to
some
do it,
ruler
really.
there.
That's
Yeah, he's
boss shit.
absolutely no fucks given yet because he just had to put down a rebellion. And remember,
Mm-hmm.
he sacrifices infants for power. So, yeah. So, with that in mind, like this guy has literally sacrificed infant babies to gain personal power. He has done that multiple times. He's a bloodthirsty killer in some regards, but he's also an animal in others. Animals eat young. Are they all evil? That's kind of where I'm taking this druidic
Yeah, it's
neutrality.
like it depends on your nuance. Like if you don't have
Correct.
all the context, yeah, it's fucking terrible. But if you see the damage and destruction that they have to deal with, that kind of it makes sense. As
Indeed.
much as you don't want to admit to it, you know what I mean?
So they decide after the ruler leaves that they actually want to have breakfast with King Mitra.
Oh, really?
So that's fine. They do some knowledge checks, so they know how to ask a king to have
Yeah.
breakfast together. And they also have Quick's influence. That's nice. So they roll their checks, figure out the best way. They send a page boy to formally ask him if they may accompany him at dinner. And he says yes. Now, keep in mind, when he got here, I don't know if anyone will remember, but I said that he was basically butt naked except for a little fucking little
Ooh.
jock strap to hold his dick in, because a status symbol in Sort is the less clothing you wear, the more powerful you are. So he basically shows up with his jewels hanging out. That's a powerful motherfucker. Plus, he's showing him that I'm so tough, I don't need furs on. Well, let's fast forward 5 days now, because they've been there 5 days
Oh no.
because Withers made them wait an extra day for him,
That's
even though he
true.
could have been there before all of them.
Because he's a
So
cunt.
they've been waiting. So now he's been here 5 days. Yeah, when he gets up in the morning, he is not thrilled to be in this climate anymore. He now has a couple of fucking furs on his shoulders. The chicks he brought with him, they got their titties covered now. Like everybody from this desert place is like, fuck the
Get
north. I
fucked,
want to go
Withers.
home. Yeah. And so
Making
he's not in the
Galdrin
best
bad.
mood, but he's there. So again, I have all 5 of them. They're all at breakfast together, and I just give them 5 personal little RP scenarios again. So let's go to Xander. You have the king of a country you're not too familiar with. You're having breakfast with him. What do you want to talk about?
Well, you said you went to
So
Xander
you choose
first?
Sorry?
You said Xander first?
Yeah, Xander
Okay,
first.
just making sure.
So Xander's just like, I want to know about the new watch commander. So this is going way back. So I wanted to again bring some of the fun and humor from the Dark Sun campaign to this one. So I start describing the guy. I say, yes, he is the great grandson of one of the biggest supporters of Eldaryl there ever was. And they all start
Shout out El
laughing
Daryl.
almost immediately because they know exactly who I'm talking about. So for those that don't know, in our first series in the Dark Sun, Shaw had a halfling named Eldaryl. Eldaryl was a mage, and he could cast, or sorry, he was a water cleric, and he could cast the spell Charm Person. Well, in D&D Second Edition, if you made your check or there was something to it, but you could actually make people permanently charmed to you, and he rolled so well that this gate guard that he charmed so they could get through the gate without any hassle became permanently charmed by him.
Dude, that's so
So
funny.
I took it to the extreme where he worships El Daryl. I love you, El Daryl. Like he can't stop talking about him. Anyone he talks to, that's the first thing he talks about. Like he's one of those
I like how the
like a
dice
trans.
created a homosexual.
Exactly. Like they made like a homo or fucking fag or not fag, a tranny or something. People that
Yeah,
can't
I
fucking stop
respect you.
talking
You
about
take
this.
that back. That's pretty funny. Not
Yeah,
funny, but that's you take that back because in that context, it's not needed for a fag because we're
yeah,
not trying to
it's
disparage
redundant. Yeah,
gays. Yeah.
yeah. So he knows that. So you take like I just play it up and we all have a chuckle. I'm not going to expect
That's
everybody else
funny.
to laugh. It was a very individual thing where it was just so funny to have
I'm
this
barely
fucking
clued
gate guard
in, but I remember
permanently.
El Daryl.
Yeah,
I
he's just a
remember
funny
that.
character.
I
So I'm
like
basically saying the great grandson of that guy
it.
he permanently charmed dedicated his entire family to declaring himself for Eldaryl. He helped Eldaryl take the
In like
city that
you
Eldaryl
said in a
took,
homo
and
way, right?
no, not in a homo way. Like
Oh, that's right.
worship,
We
like
said no
in
homo.
someone who's starstruck. You know, how people worship like
Uh,
wrestlers or people love their certain jocks, like
like
Michael
that,
Jordan fan.
like that gnome elf halfling type thing in Oblivion that follows you after you beat the arena. He has like that fire hair. It's kind of like
Yeah,
that.
like a super fan, if
Yeah, yeah,
that's what
yeah,
he is. But
yeah.
yeah, he's a super fan. So he's Eldaryl's super fan. So here's his great grandson in a different context, but they all know who he is. So we got a good laugh out of that. So I'm like, he's the new watch commander. And they were a little bit leery, but I'm like, remember, he was a watch commander, and then he became Eldaryl's right-hand man after defending him tooth and nail. And then after that war, he had like 8 sons. So then those sons dedicated themselves to Eldaryl, and then those 8 sons had more sons, and they became like the backbone of Eldaryl's city state. Because again, it's supposed to be insular so they can keep out the secret from the outside world that it's a slave state,
Yeah,
or that the slaves could be free. So the more people you have that are dedicated to you, the better. And if it's genetic dedication, pretty much, you're even better off. So Eldaryl
yeah,
has the most solid crew behind him there is. So this watch commander is a solid guy. That's the point he tries to get across. So after some laughs, Xander of course doesn't get it because he wasn't there for it, but he kind of got the context, so you got a chuckle out of it too. And then that was his information. So he learned a bit about the watch commander. They found out he's an able general and he should be fine. And they were like, okay, that's good. So we go to Shaw. Shaw decided to troll King Mitra. I don't know what
no,
possessed him,
Shaw, come
but he
on,
decided he
bro.
was going to start poking him. So Mitra
Two for
mentioned the
two.
weather, and Shaw's like, well, you look a little cold there. What's the matter? Are your cheeks cold? Like just fucking just poking him. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but you have to roll a check. And the motherfucker fails it. So I'm like, King
He fails
Mitra
for
gives him a
what?
sidelong glance, but he lets it go because he has class. So then he fucking tries it again after I think Zverg's. He fucking takes another jibe at him and fails again.
Come on, dude.
So I'm like, well, he's just gonna burn you back. So I burned him back. So yeah, we had a good jibe, just fucking take
So,
a shot.
so
Because
the,
Mitra's
the
fucking,
official
he's not a
wasn't taking
pussy.
it seriously. He was like,
Yeah,
"Ah,
he
you want to
wasn't.
talk shit? I'll
He
talk
knew what he
shit."
was doing because he was trying to fucking poke fun at the outsider, right? Which is what he would do to someone who was sunburned. So I mean, maybe someone else, but what it did do was it
Lighten the
made
mood.
something happen when they got back, which I'll get into.
Okay.
So he fails twice. He's trying to fuck with King Mitra, and it's gonna bite him in the ass in a little bit. But that was what he ended up doing. Andromeda took the opportunity to ask Mitra about the Navy and planted the bug in his ear that he could do privateering for Sort against Geldrin, because King Mitra's pissed about that. It makes Sort look bad.
Mm-hmm.
So here's Andromeda saying, we can get back at Galdrin and you don't even got to leave your throne. You just, fund my settlement. Fund me with
Oh,
ships.
you fucking
Fund
snake!
that
Not
clever
you, but
motherfucker,
Andromeda.
right? But Andromeda's so clever. So that was his angle. So he plants that bug in Mitra's ear, and Mitra's immediately interested because he's a businessman. He sees the advantage of this. So clever Andromeda's clever. On Zverg. Zverg didn't really care, and I've mentioned before that I had a special mission for Zverg to go to Sort, but he is either hasn't been in the cards and he's just not digging it. And I had a little backstory to do on Brown, who was his master, and I just wanted to fill in more blanks on Brown. But when I gave him the opportunity to talk to about it with King Mitra, he just said, "No, I'm not interested," and moved on. So I didn't get the chance. So I had to manufacture a chance because I wanted to give him something. And I'm like, yes, I understand you're a stubborn bastard. I respect that. But at the same time, being a stubborn bastard, this time I got to give you something for it. You can be a stubborn bastard in the future and it'll bite you in the ass in some way, I'm sure. But right now, I need to give you something. I just want to give him a special familiar called a jeweled scarab because
Ooh, that
he
sounds
now finds
good.
out his old master is like a hero in the desert to the slaves because he remember I don't again way back in there, but I talked up the fact that Brown could make water pure, and he was practically obsessed with water and finding it and making sure people could find it and anybody could get it, and he knew
That's a
how to
weird
clean
obsession
it.
to have.
Well, not when you realize that he spent 20 years in the desert and he understands how important water is to people that don't. So he has this perspective. You know how people go to Africa and they see all those people and they have a new appreciation for what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
they
in their own
become
country?
humanitarians and shit.
Exactly. Well, Brown became the ultimate humanitarian. He was actually quite rich. His backstory, which again, Sverg wasn't interested in, but the people listening might be interested in, is he went there as a rich nobleman because he was from Fangorn, right? He wasn't from Sword. He went
Yep.
there just adventuring with wanderlust as young men do. He was rich and he could go wherever he wanted. So a dangerous place to go was Sort, and he was like, "Oh, I'm above that kind of stuff. No problem. I'll go to Sort." Well, of course, he gets waylaid almost immediately and taken into slavery. He escapes slavery because slaves can escape once in a while. And when
Yep.
he does, he almost dies of thirst. He meets a crazy hermit in the desert who ends up being a druid, takes him under his wing, shows him how to find water. He realizes that Brown won't be a druid. He never was. But he realizes that Brown has an aptitude for just nerdy shit, like knowing plants and knowing and remembering stuff and all the helpful shit to keep you alive. So he realizes that while he doesn't have a druidic protege, he does have a naturalist protege. So he takes him under his wing. They spend about 5 years in the desert together, and then Brown strikes out on his own and he starts this book, the Book of Water. And this book ends up is the book that Zverg actually has in his possession right now, which is the work of a lifetime. Zverg can go to any terrain in Perennia and find water. And if he can't find it or he does find it, he knows how to purify it with local things. He knows how to build all sorts of different ways to purify water, and he knows how to find it in the most obscure places, all in a book.
Why is
He just
that?
has to make a check to find it in speed. He'll always find it. It's just how fast will he find it? So yeah, that's what he has in his possession, and I want to give him a jeweled scarab because if he had gone to Sort, people would have recognized his staff and the robe, which he still wears in honor of his master.
Ah,
He just had them hemmed
okay.
in. So then that would have been a cool way for
I
me to
was
kind of, if they'd have
confused.
got waylaid, I'd have been able to kind of free them because of his backstory, and then it'd been like, wow, you're Brown's guy. Like, wow, you're awesome. Do you know your master's so cool? And yeah, something like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know. Anyway, I
I'm with
thought
it.
it was
I'm
a
with
fun
it.
little backstory.
I'm definitely with you on that one. I like it.
'Cause I never really described Brown too much. He just had that heroic way. He tried to save everybody, and he got an arrow in the neck for his trouble.
Sad.
Right.
It's tragic.
And he was always like insular and kept to himself because he spent a lot of time in the desert by himself with a crazy hermit. So it was just in his temperament. So of course this temperament passes on to Zverig, and Zverig's playing an excellent character. He's very suspicious of people that want to pay too much attention to him. He doesn't want to be the center of attention. He just wants to be left alone to smoke his weed and grow plants. That's his shtick.
Is
So
he
it
just
was
trying to
very
be
in character
Gandalf?
for
Is
him
he like
to
Gandalf or something?
almost. He loves smoking weed. He's actually just started smoking weed like maybe 4 or 5 years ago because he has something that it's none of anybody's business. But
Yeah,
smoking weed helps.
we don't have to share that yet,
So he
but
likes smoking weed and it's all new to him. Well, I started smoking weed when I was like 19, 20.
yeah,
So I've been through that whole, yeah, I'm a weed smoker phase. I don't care now.
he's
It's
just
like,
discovering it. See, I'm a
yeah,
vapor, I'm
exactly.
a dabber, so like
Yeah, and I
that.
love watching him. Like, it's great, man. We've got him gooned, like fucking gooned a few times. It was pretty good.
Fuckers, that's
So
funny.
So yeah, he learns about his backstory, and then basically I just manufacture an instance where Brown's the slave that Brown would have helped her village. She describes to the group what he did for him, and then Mitra asks out because basically everybody gets up. Zverg just turns around and walks out without saying anything because that's his mannerism. He does that all the time. So King Mitra watches him go, automatically suspicious. So then he talks to Quick, who's the only person he truly knows, and says, did that guy kill Brown and take his shit? And he says it in a way that says, if he did, I'm going to kill him and take it back. So all of a sudden, Zverev made this
Oh, kind of
very
gets
dangerous
serious.
situation for himself. So then Quick, thankfully, was talked him off the ledge and made him make a diplomacy check to talk him down. And he ends up talking him down. So that was good. So then Mitra calms down and he thanks them all. And that's the end of the breakfast. And it went well. So they learned some information they wanted to learn. And oh, sorry, I didn't do Quick himself.
You
Don't
did?
remember what he wanted. He wanted to. Oh, Quick asked about the inner workings of Sort, which
Ooh.
is not something they really know. Like I said, it's secluded. You can't even really get to most of the places without being waylaid, and then you're a slave, and then you don't really get to know anything. So they get insider baseball on the rulers. So I basically explained to them when I explained to everybody here about how the group of four good guys kind of took over four of the seven city states from the old rulers, and they did certain things like they tried to end the slavery because they know it's bad, but they couldn't because it's not a thing that can be done. It's not feasible. The group's pretty worldly by now, so they understand that yeah, you can't just change people because of where they are. You can't just end a way of life and expect people to just pick it up where it left off. Like it just doesn't work that way. So he explained that, and then he explained how their currency works and how they keep the secret and how the city states or
So
how the
he
merchant
actually
houses
explained
are proper.
everything, or
We explained everything because Quick got like a 25 on his diplomacy.
Jesus
We
Christ.
got him in a chat. Yeah, he got him in a chatty mood, and he just wanted to get out of here. Plus, he likes these guys. They just revealed an insanely huge secret, and they asked nothing in return,
I would
which
be
is
suspicious.
insane to him. He doesn't even understand in his country, right? They're merchants,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
nothing
Yep.
is free.
Yep.
You have to
Yep.
pay
Yep.
for everything. So the fact they gave him this damning evidence, which he's going to
I forgot
verify,
slavers are
but it's real.
technically full-time merchants.
Yeah,
I get that from Skyrim, so Xander definitely would feel. Well, I'll get it from Elder Scrolls Online, but yeah,
yeah.
slavers.
So
That's a full-time job for him. It's like being a merchant for cloth.
he's more than happy, and he thinks it's a cool precedent. So this group has made an insanely good impression on one of the seven rulers of a nation, and this is like the only time and it's a very big tropey thing. Like every fucking, I'm not even kidding. Every fantasy novel I've ever read, the main character meets some sort of royalty.
Yep.
Does not fucking matter. Every single fantasy one I've ever read. That's not
And they
like
get
niche.
some like big car or a fucking like minigun, like something that insanely big and extravagant and useful.
Well, there's not too many D&D miniguns, but they do get cool swords and like wicked
I was
robes.
using an example of
I know
how
I
it
was teasing you.
exaggerated. I know
I
you
know I
had
was
me for a
teasing
second.
you.
You had me.
+5 minigun of fucking burr. Um,
I thought you were genuinely arguing with me. I'm like, come on, bro, that was
no,
a
fuck
metaphor.
no.
But you got me. You had
No,
me
I just
rolling
like
on that.
fucking. I like to have good delivery sometimes too. So, oh fuck, there was something they did ask for. Now I'm trying to remember. because it tied into the fact they asked for nothing. It wasn't that critical though, and if I remember it, I'll let you know. But Quick did mention something that they could get in recompense. I don't remember what the fuck that is now. Trying to remember, but it wasn't like a huge thing. It wasn't money or anything like that. But he did ask for some sort of favor and recompense, which wasn't close to the favor. The favor of them doing this for free will become apparent as I get to the next day, or to the next couple days. So they have their breakfast. Of course, they don't do anything to Withers. Withers sticks around. Every other diplomat leaves. He's the only one there still. They're sure it's because he still wants to see Andromeda because he's been looking for her forever, and here she is. So he's like sitting outside of his tower watching her. He seems to always be in eyesight of her when she's among other
Fuck
people.
Withers.
Yeah, he loves her. So, or his version of love. So that day passes. Then I say there's 2 days until the guards or until the watch commander arrives, and you have to kill these 2 days however you like. Nobody does anything worth talking about. They just kill the 2 days. We tick it off on the calendar and move on. The watch commander arrives just middle of the afternoon. He just because they have a teleportation because they're quite powerful.
That's
They
right.
are able. Yeah, that's how Mitra got there. Now, Zverg was actually able to reason out through his skills and his magical ability that Mitra actually has a toe ring of teleportation circle.
Oh, what?
It's not very apparent because he has a few pieces of jewelry here and there, but he has a special ring on his toe that can actually activate the spell. Because he wanted to know how the hell Mitra could use this magic and not get taken over by Tixis. Because teleportation circle is a huge level spell. But Sword is rich, and they have lots of people to sacrifice to make magic items. So, I
That
mean,
how you
it's
make magic?
possible
That's
for them
right.
to.
We talked about this, and I was
Yeah.
surprised before.
So you give life force to make magic items. That's the essential of it. Life force is XP. So obviously a higher level person who has a lot of XP burn can do it. But if you're a low level person and they use you in a certain ceremony for crafting things, they can drain your life essence and kill you. There's actually a specific undead that's made from people that get their life drained in
What's
those
that
types of
called?
ceremonies. I honestly can't remember. It's a niche one, but it's some sort of spirit. There's so many wraiths and spirits in D&D. It's not even funny. There's
How
probably
do you make
two
a
per monster
beholder?
manual.
That's
How do you
like the.
make one?
Yeah, isn't that like the Cthulhu
Yeah, it's
tentacle monster?
well, they're an aberration, so I'm not sure if they're created or if they're just spawned. But there are
Oh.
beholder cults, and there are different types of beholders. That's a whole show to itself. Beholders are fascinating.
Oh,
They have a
really?
whole book about them. Yeah, there's a whole book about beholders, like a full 230-page beholder book with cultists and variants and prestige classes, and yeah, you can go
Maybe
hard on beholders if you
maybe
want.
we
You can
could
make a
do an
beholder player.
episode. Maybe we can do like a spin-off where we just discuss D&D monsters and stuff.
Yep, that'd be fun. No, we're going so hard on this fucking campaign. We always have shit to talk about.
That's true. But anyways,
So Withers, they obviously try to ignore him for the 2 days, but all he does is just eye bang Andromeda whenever he can.
he's like
Second
lusting
day
over
arrives.
her.
Teleportation circle activates. They see a little bit paunch guy. Remember, again,
Yep.
not everybody's in super physical shape, but he's in his 40s, late 40s. He's a guy who's had a desk job and it's showing. With him are 6 other men, bodyguards. Each one of these men has a symbol on their chest. Now, this is glaring to Shaw immediately and Quick because they're both watchmen, and they know that in the watch, nobody has outside markings. It's a military operation. Just like IRL, you're not
Yeah,
allowed to
it's true.
have anything
Or they
on your
can't be
military.
visible, or they can't be obscene. I forget.
Exactly. Yep. So these guys are already breaking the rules. Like, and me, as soon as they fucking arrive, Shaw knows. So he's on them right away. So it's a very tense exchange because this is the new watch commander. And I'm like, remember too, you two were discharged at the end of the event. You with honors. They said you've done more than enough for the watch. You've gone over and above. You fought off like multiple evasions by yourself. Like you're good. You've done your time. Live out your life. So they're not even technically part of the command
Oh,
structure
so
anymore.
they
Yeah,
retired?
they were free. Yeah, I think I skipped over it. We did it as characters, but like they've been
We
kind of
probably talked
outside of
about
the
it,
command
but I
structure
missed
since
it.
we started. Like it's nothing new to them. They haven't reported back forever anyway.
Yeah, it's
So it
true. They'll
wasn't a
go
huge
off for
deal.
like years
It
at a
hasn't been
time.
a thing. It hasn't been restrictive. It was never meant to be restricted for them. So they get out with full honors. So I'm like, you're interfering in something that's not technically about you, for starters. Second, he's the commander. You're not supposed to argue with the new guy, especially in front of the new people. How do you want to do this? He's like, nope, fuck it. I'm doing it anyway. I can't let this
Kill
slide.
him.
It's the watch. The watch is his life. He ends up winning the exchange. He had to use a few nightlies again because he can't roll worth a shit for diplomacy.
He
All to find
never
out at the
can.
end that the guy starts smiling at him. And then he realizes that all he was doing was busting his balls because he was busting Mitra's balls. So he had all those
Yeah.
guys put those on so that he could cause all this shit and piss off
No.
Shaw.
That's so
Yes.
fucking funny.
Yeah. So I was like, he's like, motherfucker. I'm like, Mitra control too.
See, I
So
think
they
it's.
get that over. They're all friends immediately. Everybody shakes hands. Everybody has a laugh.
I've
So
noticed the
crisis
humor has
averted.
ramped up with you guys. Like you guys have a
It
lot
has.
of
I'm
punch and
trying to make it
really
more
good
fun.
punchlines. I like that.
Well, it's been so serious for so long, right?
Yeah,
So it's been
it
war.
started off pretty
Literal
damn
war.
serious. That almost ended
Yeah.
it.
It did. And I want to make it a bit more lighthearted. Although I'm going to make it just as bad as that again. You trust me.
Oh yeah,
So
you just gotta know how to balance it out and handle your
I
players
do.
too. And you
And
do.
also
You know how to.
it was a little too real. Like I don't want to revisit like the
That's
seriousness
true.
of rape again, but I'm definitely enjoying having fucking with them in ways that are more fun for the story. Like I think that would be fun for people to read too.
I
Like this
think that's
tense
cool.
exchange, it's just two guys busting each other's balls,
Oh,
which is
it comes off like yeah,
people
life or
barely do
death
anymore.
discussion, and then yeah, it turns into like a lighthearted exchange. I like that.
Yeah. So they do this, and then he gets serious immediately. So everybody's happy, and he gets serious. He says, "I have something I have to do immediately," or I've talked like I'd talk like the merchant cities of sort.
Mm.
So the merchant states of sort are an equal mix of Indian accents and Arab accents, because again, but they're white people, just to make it funny. So, hello, I am the. So he talks like an Indian. So he says, "I have one very important job to do." He turns on a heel and starts walking directly towards where all the ambassadors and everyone was taken. Marches directly up the stairs. Everybody's kind of puzzled, but they're all following him. The six men with him are right behind him, like right up the wall. So again, I play up the fact they don't really know what's going on. Ask them if they want to go. Of course, they want to fucking go. They want to see what's going on. Marches all the way up to Wither's room. Raps on the door. Diplomatically tells Withers he must exit the premises immediately.
Mm.
Lists off all of these revisions. So during the tense exchange, the commander pretended not to know the rules. So he made Shaw have to remember the rules for uniforms with Zverg's help so he could recite them. So now he stands in front of Withers and starts reciting rules verbatim
Oh, that's
exactly
clever.
from the book to get rid. So then Shaw really realizes that he was just screwing with them and that this guy knows exactly what he's doing. He
That's,
drums Withers out of that place,
that's so
gives him
fucking
10 minutes to
awesome.
get out. Not only that, takes all of Withers' hippogriffs, says he's commandeering them
His
as
hypocrites.
Galdrin's payment on hippogriffs are flying horses.
Oh,
Horses
okay.
with horse beaks. They're in Harry Potter. Um,
I believe you.
yeah, they're winged horses with eagle's beaks and fucking tiger claws. Something like that. Or lion claws, one of the two. But anybody could Google hippogriff and it'll pop right up. So yeah, he jacks all of Wither's hippogriffs, kicks them out, says you could take your attendants and one hippogriff each and you fuck off diplomatically. And Withers didn't have a leg to stand on. Starts trying to fight back, realizes that he's in a losing battle because he doesn't have anybody on his side, and he ends up having to leave. So, of course, Andromeda loves every goddamn second of this, obviously, and rightfully. So that was good payback. I'm like, have some faith, homie. I made you have dinner with him, but I always knew that this was going to happen. Like,
And
good with the bad.
he
So it's
doesn't
good.
think it's Andromeda's doing. He thinks it's Shaw
Because
and other people in the area, and he's not in the area where he has more power because someone outranked him finally.
And not only that, he got embarrassed in front of his girl, right?
Yeah, that's
He
right.
got, so he's like burning with shame. And again, I have Andromeda, who knows him the best, do a special sense motive check, and she does see that he is enraged for like a split second, and he gets it under control. But
Oh,
she sees that
how
it
can he
gets to him
control that easy? That's
because he's
oh
wiser,
yeah, he's powerful
smarter,
too.
and more charismatic. Yeah, the old Withers would have blown his fucking stack, and then
Mm-hmm.
you do that to me. I am with us. Like he would fucking shout at them like that, but no, he just calmly. Okay, you're right. He had no leg. He doesn't know the rules that well that he could argue it back, and he don't want to piss off Sort because now all of a sudden
He
he
wants to
looks
be able to come
worried
back for
for
his
Tech
boo.
too because he's like maybe they know what I did. And he's like, uh-oh. So now he's flying back. That's probably got to be the longest, loneliest fly back to an aircraft carrier ever. It's just, oh man, what am I gonna do? Of course, I already know what he's gonna do. But yeah, that's what he's thinking when he's flying back.
That's awesome.
So group's a little heartened now. They'll get chuckle at that. They're like, yeah, finally something goes against Withers for because really this is the first thing that's gone against him
That's
since
true.
they met. Like since they met him. Truthfully, Nathan's bitched him out that one time and they got satisfaction, but that and then Nathan's was supposedly killed after that. So it was kind of like, oh shit. Oh, right, when they left, right? When they manufactured their
Hmm.
escape. They did the diversion after the zombies and they escaped. Yeah, that's the last time they caught one over on Withers. Other than that, he's been winning
And
left,
it
right, and
kind of wasn't
center.
really on him. He just happened to be on the losing end or something.
Correct.
Or I
So
could
this
have
is the
misread that
first direct
situation.
loss. Yes, that's gotta be taken into context. So they're
Hmm.
loving it. So now they get to meet this new commander. So I've been touting to them for the last couple sessions. I got a dungeon on the way. It's called Dungeons and fucking Dragons. We're doing a dungeon finally.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
excited for it too. I've already built it and everything. I'm gonna show you right before we end today. So been talking it up, and here's the moment. Of course, there's a little bit more to get there, but the little bit more might include killing, so that's fine with the group. So they must now go to Castle Pot Guy. Now, for any Asian listeners or Chinaman listeners that we have, Pot Guy is a swear word in your crazy tongue, and I'm okay with that. And if you get a chuckle out of it, that's great. The guy that made, what was his name? Anyway, Pot Guy was the name of his character. He was a Chinaman, so fuck off if you don't like it. He
That's
loved
funny.
that name. And he called himself Pot Guy as fucking often as he could, and he'd giggle every time. And I was like, whatever, I'm white, I don't care. So Castle Pot Guy's here. They're currently here in King's Hold. King's Hold, just to refresh your memory, is this place where we've been to quite a bit lately. They had the battle castle, shrine to the all gods, where they had to fight the defacer. Then they went out and they grew a size and they had a fight over here. Shaw jumped off of here, cut that vampire's head off. They snuck through
Badass.
here to get to the secret. This is a very well used map. We've used it a lot.
Yes, we have.
So from here, oops, wrong one. Castle Bot Guy. I actually have it done. As you can see, when the little hand comes up, that means I have a map.
Oh, really?
Since, yep,
So
since
you can make a
Varg,
little video game.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of what it is. It's just links, though. So this is Castle Bot Guy. That wall is very thick,
How
five
thick?
feet thick.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no fucking around. This is the only actual wall they built for the watch
And that could take
because the
modern
undead
artillery.
well, they just didn't have time to build a wall 200 miles long, or sorry, 400 miles long. Like, it just doesn't happen. So they built this as the last stand place, and it got fucking raped. So this is where they're gonna go. They've been jacked to do this, but I already told them the new commander calls the shots. You're there as representatives and experienced specialists. There are rules written into the watch that adventurers get to help because adventurers are usually skilled in this type of stuff, and the watch doesn't turn down. Plus, the watch was started by fucking adventurers, so
Hmm.
they made sure that their own could be there. So, as adventurers, they have the adventurer class and they get the adventurer rights, which does not include telling the watchman where to go. The commander gets 500 watchmen to take with him to take back Castle Pot Guy. So they're like, "We're going to talk to the commander. What's he say?" I'm like, "He says that he wants to take 50 men on Hipper. Sorry, 50 men, not 500 men. My mistake. He's going to take 50 men on 50 hippogriffs. He's going to kick down the door and kill them all." Really?
Sounds like a
Yep, that's what
shitty
they do in
plan.
Sort. That's what he says they do in Sort. He says these are just bandits. They're
So
just
he's taking
undead
his
bandits.
homeland. He's
Yeah.
taking like
So
homeland, like he think he knows the whole land because of his homeland, and it
exactly.
doesn't
And
work.
see, you get that, right?
Different
So that's what I'm
lands,
going
different
for, right?
worlds, different creatures and people, behaviors, needs, all that shit.
Yes. So there's a word for him. That word is naive. He has
Yes,
no
that's what
idea
it
what the
is.
fuck he's getting into. And I'm trying to play that up. And I'm like, and he's the commander. They're like,
He's
but he can't. They'll get
really good
everybody will
guy,
get
just
killed.
naive.
Because they were first at first they were like, oh yeah, we'll just let them all die. And I'm like, no, these aren't Swordians. Because they thought he was commanding his own men. I'm like, no, these are 50 watchmen he's bringing. Why are you going to teach him a lesson by getting your men killed? So then they were like, oh. So then they really realized the scope of what he wanted to do. Then they're like, oh, no, 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 we can't get these watchmen killed. We need every man. Because this is Shaw and Quick leading the drive, of course, because this is their baby.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was about a half-hour exchange between Shaw and the commander, and they end up talking the commander off the ledge. They're like, look, we know what we're doing. You've heard the stories. You know that we're good for this. don't get all these men killed. Not only that, the watchmen themselves are like, we don't want to do this. Like, what the fuck, man? You're gonna get us all killed. So he's like, fine. So he relents. They get to call the operation now. That took about half hour to get to, but I figured they were always going to win the role. I wasn't going to make it super hard because I'm really tired of leading them around by the nose. I want to get this dungeon over, and I want to see what they have to do. And I didn't want to make them have to go through something they didn't want to. So we get through all of that. It was a good chuckle at the end, so they're like, finally we can do what we want. So they end up doing, they want to go in 24 hours early. So they're going to go at about 6 o'clock in the evening. They should arrive there about 4 o'clock in the morning. They want nighttime. They know the undead don't sleep. They just want the maximum amount of stealth.
Yes.
So they arrive there at 4 a.m.
Can the zombies see at night? Or, I mean, can undead see at night?
I already told them I'm just going to throw them a bone. I'm going to say it's a very dark night, and the only reason the undead could see anything is with their 60-foot dark vision. If you have low light vision, this gets a little technical, but dark vision means you can see for up to a certain amount, in this case 60 feet, as if the darkness wasn't there. Just normal darkness, not magical darkness. So that means you could see like a lit room through darkness. You don't need a torch, right? It's for dwarves and other underground races. They've never seen daylight, so it makes sense that they could see in the dark like it's daylight. That's dark vision, obviously the best form of seeing at night. The next step is low light vision. Elves have this. Elves are notorious for having low light vision. What that does is it allows you to see twice as far in certain shadowy conditions as you normally could.
PM.
Yeah, sorry, I'm almost done.
Oh, you're good. No,
so,
I didn't mean to say that out loud. Sorry.
No, we are truly almost done though.
Okay, you're good.
So
I could
that
stay
mine,
another 30 if we needed to.
We should be about 10 or 15. We're
good.
really almost done. They don't even get into a battle. So they decide to do a flyover. The flyover is somewhat risky, so they choose a height that will keep them out of the dark vision range, but hopefully make it close enough that they can see. And Shaw rolls like a 32 or a 35 or something retardedly high for his spot check. It was a 30-something.
You know, I watched a YouTube video of someone getting like a couple, like I forget what the number was, but it was like over 50 because of like
That's
the plus
insane.
one. I think it was that new it's that new D&D show. I forget what it's called, but it's not Roll20.
You can get to 40 fairly easy. There's a spell called True Strike, which adds plus 20 to your hit. So if you rolled a 20 and you added that 20, that'd be 40 right there. So getting to 50 isn't that hard.
50 though. The dice roll.
That's impossible.
No, it was like
it's probably a D100.
It was like a times 10 is what the.
Oh, it's a D100. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's fine.
I forget what it was. It was a small dice. But sorry, I'll talk to you later.
No worries. So it's fine. You'll be able to go bed. So he rolls a retardedly high number. He gets an excellent spot check. So I point out all the bad guys that he can see. So there is a ghast on here. A couple ghasts are patrolling the center area, but most of the ghasts are obviously on the wall looking out for threats. Then these two handle the inward threats. I also revealed that this wall has been shattered here, the wall's been shattered here, and I think right here. 3 spots along there. They choose their approach to go through this point in the wall, then they're going to go between these, through there, and in the front. That's the plan they chose. Doesn't mean it goes that way. As soon as they get through, there's fucking zombies everywhere.
Yeah.
Like The Walking Dead, right? Like, just picture The Walking Dead. There's fucking zombies everywhere. Doesn't mean they're all going to be concentrated, but they could be concentrated pretty quick if brought to action. So we just roll randomly. So I'm like, there's a percentage chance that there's zombies at this point. Okay, cool. They made it past. They got to here, and then there were too many zombies here, so they had to double back and maybe go through the stable. They elect instead to take the secret option 3. They get onto this roof, climb onto the roof, go across the roof, above all the zombies, and then they're going to jump down. Quick wants to jump across this gap here and land on the roof like he was the last time they went to a Temple of the All Gods. He makes his check. Also, not very paladin-like. Xander wants to jump across too. That's why I'd say, I'm like, he's not a paladin. He's a hell of a fighter. So I want him to run. So he runs and jumps, and he makes the check too. And then last but not least is Andromeda. So the 3 of them jump across to this roof. Shaw's like, fuck that. I'm just jumping down. Gets down on the ground, walks across, and Zverg's like, I ain't a bird either. He jumps down, gets across. They get into the entrance. They get through the doorway. They realize that the Temple to the All Gods is just like the other Temple to the All Gods. and it has a section. Actually, I should open it.
Oh, I like it. Black and white.
Yeah. Anyway, it was the temple that we had before. There's no bad guys in the temple. This is the dungeon that they're going to.
Ooh, that's
I
cool.
described them going down this stairs. They get to this point. So
It reminds me of
with
a Pillars of Eternity map. I like that.
Quick and Shaw are the two stealth artists. They go to the bottom. They look around. They see nothing in this room. The room is dimly lit. They see that this is a lectern of some sort, and above this lectern, slowly rotating on itself, is a T that matches the T that desecrated the other temple. Unlike the other T, which was etched into the ground and just green, this one's literally floating like a hologram right above the lectern. So already this is a different kind of desecration. The whole party gathered at the bottom of the stairs, and that's actually where we left off. So like I was
Okay.
saying, I was almost done.
So like at the end of
I'll
the
tell
dungeon,
everybody
at the
what they're
beginning
in
of the
for.
dungeon, I mean.
So you see these four innocuous looking pillars?
Yes.
Yes, those four innocuous looking pillars are not actually pillars. In fact, pillars do not hold this up. This is dwarf constructed. The
Mm.
pillars are actually undead,
Oh.
disguised as pillars with scythe-like arms. They're called bone pillars. So I had Shaw and Quick roll wisdom checks, which is a memory check essentially. They've been here once, a very long time ago, because this is where all the great knights are interred, all the ones that do excellent work in the watch.
Yeah.
They get to be cryptid here. It's just a place of honor, essentially.
Okay.
So they've been here to honor one of their comrades, but I wanted to see if they would remember whether there were pillars here or not, and they couldn't. So they're going to wander in the midst of these pillars next time, and I'm going to have them jumped by and ambushed by all four pillars
And
almost
you should
immediately.
make it to where, if it's possible, to add like an MMO type of mechanic where you have to kill them in a specific order, or like like
Funny you mention
stun
that
them or
because
down them. You have to down them in a specific order, or they can get
this,
each other up.
no, this dungeon has a mechanic. The mechanic
Oh.
is there is a bone skull in this E room's treasure room. In E, there's a bone skull. Bone skull is a three-headed, or it's a bone something. I'll have all the names next time. But the bone mage essentially, it has three skull heads on it, and it's all about like skeleton warriors. It's kind of a thematic one. So I have him as the leader, and then I picked four different skeleton type monsters to populate this dungeon with. And this is going to be you have to do it all at once because every time they rest, every room is going to restock. They have to push the whole way through and kill that guy for this dungeon to stop functioning.
Okay.
So they're probably going to play it safe, maybe go to B, maybe
Are
go
you
to C, have
are
a
you
few
going to tell
fights.
them that's the mechanic, or are you just going to let them find out?
Absolutely, I'm not telling them.
All right.
So
Hell
they're going to
yeah.
go to sleep. They're going to come back the next day, and they're going to see every single one of them has repopulated except these bone pillars. Then each one is going to have a specific room creature that will not regenerate. But all the minions are going to regenerate over and over until they kill the bone mage. So it should
That's
be interesting.
awesome.
I've never really done it before.
I
So my
can't wait
plans,
to hear about it.
yeah, I'm just something different. I don't know
Yeah,
how it's going to work.
I like hearing that. I want to hear more about the politics. I want to sit in on some role play session. Like when you have a day where it's like, all right, this is like strictly role playing because of everything going on. I would like to sit in on that. But
Okay.
hell yeah, dude. I like the dungeon. I like the addition of the dungeon. I like you having mechanics for it because it adds that comfortability, the familiarity that you would find in Xander, Skyrim, or an MMO I play. I like that. It's nifty.
Well, there's treasure, and I got traps.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing complicated. This trap is going to be a pit trap. This one here is going to be a poisoned lock for the secret door. This one here is after they all enter, this room's going to seal and it's going to fill with water. Um,
Oh shit.
yeah, that one actually might kill them outright. They could all drown.
Hey.
I think they'll be fine though because Andromeda's a druid, so she's got a lot of spells to her backup, and I'm gonna make it so that the door could be forced back open again, but they're gonna have to think about it, so it'll be fun. So yeah, that room's gonna fill with water, and then this one is a poison one, and when they get into this room, after they all enter, I'm gonna have a monster summoned. I haven't decided on the monster yet. I just before we like on Monday, basically, like 4 days ago. I just decided how I was going to theme out this dungeon, so I'm not
I
quite done it
got you.
yet. I know what I want
You like
4 of the
color too.
monsters in the rooms to be, but I haven't decided on the end monster yet.
All right. Well, I can't wait to talk
And I
about it
will.
next week, man. This has been
Yeah.
a good episode. An hour. I'm gonna stop at an hour, 24 minutes, and 40.